The story begins with aliens getting ready to invade Earth, and we see an old man pondering what's going on. We see our protagonist Ataru conversing with his girlfriend Shinobu. She is upset because Ataru's looking at other girls, yet Ataru tries to convince her. Shinobu gives Ataru one more chance, but he instantly breaks his promise after seeing a female jogger nearby. Shinobu slaps him and walks away. Ataru gets tackled off the bridge by the elderly man and lands in the river. The two reconcile at a nearby area, as the old man explains that he thought Ataru was attempting to jump from the bridge. Ataru tells the old man that he wouldn't throw his life away because of a girl, and the old man tells Ataru he looks ugly, and Ataru beats him up, leaving the old man with bandages over his face. Ataru's mother and Shinobu arrive, saying they've been worried about him after hearing some bad news. A group of government agents arrives, informing Ataru that they've been looking for him. When Ataru arrives home, the alien's wooly-looking leader greets him, and Ataru tries exorcising it. The invaders point their weapons at Ataru to stop him. They tell Ataru that he must defend Earth as apart from the alien's invasion plan. The alien leader says they want to compete in a showdown against a random human that their computer picks, and if they lose, they will give up and go home. The alien leader informs Ataru that he will compete in a game of tag against his daughter, Lum. Lum arrives at Ataru's house and introduces herself to everyone. While charmed by Lum's beauty, the alien leader explains that Ataru has 10 days to beat Lum in tag by grabbing both of her horns. Lum tells Ataru that he won't be able to get his hands on her, but Ataru is fired up. After some time, the competition between Lum and Ataru begins as everyone from the aliens and humans arrives at a large stadium to witness the game. The game starts as Ataru rushes to grab Lum, but she dodges him by flying into the air, which shocks him. He tells Lum she's cheating because he didn't know she could fly, but she tells him he should have done his research. After several failed attempts, Ataru finds the situation hopeless until a group of girls encourages him to keep trying. Ataru continues his attempts as 5 days pass. Journalists and citizens swarm Ataru, mocking and hating him for his failure. Lum looks at him from above and starts feeling bad for Ataru. Ataru's parents and Cherry converse about their worries about the alien's plans, and Cherry says it was unfortunate that he was born with terrible luck. Ataru's mother and father bow their heads in shame as his mother wishes she had never given birth to him. Ataru lay in his bed, thinking about his defeat. His friends see him depressed, and to motivate Ataru, Shinobu declares she'll marry him if he wins. This reignites Ataru's passion and motivation, as his other friends give off a sigh of relief. We arrive on the final day of the competition. As Ataru attempts to grab Lum's horns, he continuously utters the word marriage to motivate himself. Lum and the audience are left puzzled as Ataru grabs Lum's feet and laughs. She shocks him with her electricity powers and leaves him on the ground. However, Ataru gets back up and rushes toward her again as she hesitantly tries to evade him. Motivated by his desire to marry Shinobu, Ataru leaps into the air and grabs Lum. She tries to shoo him away, leading to Ataru removing her bra by accident. Ataru throws her bra into the air to catch Lum off guard. Lum grabs it but doesn't see Ataru from behind. He uses the opportunity to grab hold of her two horns and wins the game. He yells into the air that it's time to get married as the humans cheer in delight that the aliens won't be invading Earth anymore. Ataru dances, excited that he'll finally be a married man. However, Lum walks over to him and accepts his marriage offer. Lum's father is shocked, but Lum insists that Ataru proposed to him during their game of tag. Lum's father accepts their marriage and tells Ataru that he better take care of his daughter. Shinobu's upset with Ataru and leaves. In the morning, Ataru glares at his television screen, happy to see more ladies talking great about him on the news. Just then Lum arrives and Ataru is surprised that the aliens haven't left Earth yet. She tells him she plans to live with him since they're married. Ataru's parents look at him with disappointment. Lum shocks Ataru the next day for trying to cheat on her. He's furious that she keeps butting into his conversation with Shinobu over the phone, and tells her that he loves Shinobu. This infuriates Lum, causing her to electrocute Ataru. She flies off as Ataru drags himself to his home telephone. He calls Shinobu, who tries to plan her next date with Ataru. Somehow, Lum gets involved in their dual phone call, making it a three-way. She tells Shinobu that she plans to make babies with Ataru on Saturday night to infuriate her. Shinobu hangs up the phone enraged. Ataru cries about the situation, saying he hates Lum for ruining his life. In a spaceship, Lum monitors Ataru's actions from afar. She's infuriated that Ataru continuously tries to cheat on her. Ataru covers his ears as his mother rants about her friend is going to start spreading ill rumors about her because of his actions. While they're bickering, a newscaster on the TV reports that an aircraft flew over their hometown and disappeared. Ataru attempts to call Shinobu again, but Lum intervenes in the call again and makes up things to rile up Shinobu, but before she hangs up, Ataru stops and tells her to hear him out. Lum tells more lies to persuade Shinobu to hang up the phone, but Ataru convinces Shinobu not to fall for Lum's lies. The two try to play it off like she's not on the line, which infuriates her. Meanwhile, Ataru's parents are watching the news as the reporters claim Lum, Shinobu, and Ataru's three-way phone call can trigger a black hole to form. Ataru says he will pay Shinobu a visit in person, but Lum pulls a lever, shocking him with electricity and causing a thunderstorm to erupt in town. Ataru puts on a disguise, but before he leaves his father interrupts him. He gives his Rubbermaid raincoat to help him avoid getting electrocuted. As Ataru and Shinobu rush toward each other, Lum turns up the power, causing the electricity to go out across the town. Ataru and Shinobu get engulfed in smoke, making it hard for them to find each other. The two scream each other's name and end up reuniting. Lum plans to crash her ship into two to destroy this love triangle, and this causes it to smoke up again. Ataru believes he's found her again but finds out he's hugging Lum. The smoke clears up and Shinobu sees Ataru hugging her. She picks up a telephone pole and throws it at them and leaves as Ataru calls out to her. Meanwhile, people flock toward Ataru's home, demanding to pay for the damage caused by Lum, while we see Lum zapping Ataru with her electric shock as punishment for cheating. The next day, Ataru is sitting in class while being smothered by Lum, and everyone in class is annoyed with Lum and finds it hard to concentrate. Shinobu starts crying because of Lum's teasing, resulting in all the girls in the class belittling Ataru, and Shinobu buries Ataru under multiple desks. The next day, Ataru visits a restaurant to eat under disguise. As he eats, the television reporter classifies him as a missing person. Lum, Shinobu, Cherry, and his family share their grievances over his absence. The news reporter puts up a photo of Ataru in disguise, causing some people in the diner to point suspicion at him. Ataru flees and bumps into a woman. He asks the woman if she needs help seductively, and the woman knocks him to the ground. She can sense his terrible luck due to her having physiognomy, and she reveals that she's a shrine maiden and that Ataru is ill-fated regarding women. She promises to do an exorcism on Ataru to try to relieve him of his curse. At her house, we learn that the woman's name is Sakura. When Ataru meets Sakura's mother, he tries to flee, but Sakura's mother lassos him back into their home. She pulls Ataru into the exorcism room and he tries to escape, but Sakura knocks him toward the ground with one of her canes. Sakura prepares the exorcism, but she can't perform it successfully due to tooth pain. This causes many demons to swarm Ataru, showing that Sakura is making things worse. Sakura chants and tries to wipe away the demons, but she stops again due to pain, and Ataru tells her that every time she stops, more monsters show up. Suddenly, we discover that the demons that latched themselves onto Ataru were the ones causing Sakura pain. Sakura sends the demons packing, only for the Grim Reaper to show up and slice Ataru. At the hospital, Sakura and her mother speak with Cherry, and he's happy that the demons causing her illness have vanished, and we find out he's her uncle. Everyone from the Grim Reaper and Ataru's loved ones establishes pity for him because they think he's dead. Ataru wakes up asking for a woman's number and address, and in anger Lum gives Ataru and Grim Reaper an electric shock. The next day Ataru visits Cherry and he asks him if he can make something to strip away Lum's powers. He shares his reasoning with Cherry and is unaware that Lum's nearby. Lum starts electrocuting Ataru as Cherry realizes Ataru's predicament. At Ataru's house, one of his friends visits him and gives him a present from Cherry. Inside the box is a yellow ribbon and a letter from Cherry. In the letter, Cherry informs Ataru that he needs to tie the ribbon on Lum's horns to neutralize her powers, and only those who tie the ribbon can take it off. Lum arrives and Ataru ties the ribbon around her horns. Lum loves the gift, and she leaves but lands hard on the ground after attempting to fly away. As Lum tries to figure out what's going on, Ataru and his friend spy on her. Lum bumps into one of Ataru's other friends and tries shocking him to see if her electrocution powers work, and his friend takes her gestures as a sign of affection, sparking jealousy in Ataru's other friend. The same routine repeats with this friend, causing a massive argument between the two. As they are arguing, Ataru confronts Lum, asking her why she can't use her powers. Shinobu arrives, telling them to get a room. Lum retaliates with an offhand reply and flaunts the gift that Ataru gave her, and Shinobu's enraged that Ataru never gave her anything and tries taking off Lum's ribbon, but Ataru blocks her, which makes Shinobu sad. She wanted to give him some baked cookies, but she kicks Ataru in the face, leaving him defeated. At night, Ataru's two friends wish to crash at his place. They want to protect Lum because she can't utilize her powers and worries about Ataru's pervy antics. Ataru fights his friends, leading them to leap onto a nearby tree outside his bedroom window, and Lum thanks Ataru for his heroism and tells him she wants to be with him forever. Ataru hates the idea and asks Lum to take the ribbon off, but Lum begs him to stop. Ataru's friends rush into his room through the window, and they stumble upon Ataru overpowers Lum. They try to knock him off of her, but Lum isn't happy and asks them to leave. As she chucks Ataru's belongings at them, she unknowingly throws the box sent by Cherry, and the letter inside the box lands in front of one of his friends. His friend reads the letter, revealing everything to Lum. She gets angry and performs various wrestling maneuvers on Ataru, and he finally removes the ribbon, giving Lum her powers back. As Lum electrocutes Ataru for his cruel actions, she vows to give Cherry a similar punishment. At his tent, Cherry receives a faint message in his concoction alarming him that he's in danger. Cherry packs up his belongings and plans to stay at Sakura's house for the night to avoid any problems with Lum. The next day, we meet a boy named Shutaro, who plans to move to Tomatake Town, and he jumps from a plane to attend his first day in school. Shutaro wishes his grandfather well before he attends his first day at Tomobiki High School. When they arrive above the building, Shutaro leaps out of the plane to make a dramatic entrance. At the school, Shinobu chases Lum and Ataru because she's tired of Lum's affection toward Ataru, and Shinobu throws a desk at Ataru but breaks a window instead. Everyone notices a strange parachute outside and decides to investigate. One of the students notices Shutaro clinging to the desk Shinobu threw, and his grandfather and henchman ask Shutaro if he's alright while aboard the family's jet. A teacher scolds Shutaro for having jets fly over the school, but Shutaro pays him no mind. Shinobu approaches Shutaro and apologizes to him. Shutaro tells her not to worry as Shinobu starts developing feelings for him. In class, Shutaro is swarmed by many girls who ask him questions about his family and their wealth, and Shutaro notices Ataru bugging Shinobu and approaches them. As Shutaro flirts with Shinobu, Ataru grows jealous of their exchange and says that Shinobu is his girl. Lum gets angry and shocks him, which catches Shutaro's attention. Lum introduces herself to Shutaro and tells him that she's married to Ataru. Shutaro's disgusted by that thought and starts critiquing Ataru's looks. This initiates an argument between him, Lum, Ataru, and Shinobu. Minutes later, Ataru's homeroom teacher announces that they'll be holding elections for the new class president. Shutaro declares his run for candidacy. He plans to punish slackers in his class with the most brutal punishments possible. Although everyone isn't on board, Shutaro says he'll make females exempt, which angers the male classmates. Disgusted by his proposal, his male classmates band together and aim to have Ataru run against Shutaro despite Ataru's faults. After giving his proposal about calling dibs on all the girls in his class, their homeroom teacher asks the class to decide on a winner. Unfortunately, Shutaro and Ataru reach a stalemate, and Shutaro suggests a competition to declare the winner. Whoever can shoot an apple off their opponent's head with a cannon wins. Shutaro tries to kick off the event by initiating the rite of challenge involving throwing a glove at their opponent, but Ataru dodges and annoys Shutaro. Shutaro chases Ataru to the school's rooftops while Lum spies on them from the skies. Shutaro throws the glove at Ataru, but Lum protects him. Ataru tells Lum that Shutaro challenged her to a duel, which infuriates Lum, and she electrocutes Shutaro. All his classmates arrive, and Ataru tells them he came out victorious. Ashamed for losing against a fool, Shutaro plans to end his life, but as he prepares to die, Ataru cheers about his victory while everyone else tries to back Shutaro out of the act. We see Shutaro meditating in his family's garden while thinking about Lum. At school, Lum's searching for Ataru but runs into Shutaro as he's parachuting from the skies. Shutaro comforts Lum, but she shoves him away for getting in the way of her search mission. Near a ballpark, Ataru asks Shinobu if she likes Shutaro. Shinobu confirms that she's developed feelings for him because he's more handsome, wealthier, and kinder than Ataru. Shutaro and Lum arrive, engulfing them in his parachute. Lum finds Ataru, and he finds Shutaro atop Shinobu, which angers him, and she departs the scene full of glee and love. Ataru leaves the area with Lum following close behind, and Shutaro discovers that he's fallen in love with Lum. The group attends a field trip in the forest, and the teacher wants everyone to establish camaraderie with their classmates and let them loose. Ataru's upset that Lum decided to tag along because he wanted to get more intimate with Shinobu. Shutaro approaches Lum and asks if she'd like to go sightseeing in a nearby cavern. Lum accepts his offer after getting permission for Ataru to attend. Ataru joins them after conjuring up a quick scheme that'll get him alone time with Shinobu, and she also joins the fray when learning that Shutaro's on board. While exploring the cave, Ataru nudges Shutaro's shoulder and suggests they split up. When they reach a split path, the two conduct their plan. After Shutaro shuts his flashlight off, they all scramble to find each other in the darkness. Ataru thinks he's with Shinobu but discovers Lum, who's wrapped around his shoulder. Shutaro and Shinobu stumble upon them as Shinobu clings to Shutaro, and the four decide to head further into the cave, and Shutaro's shown badmouthing Ataru for his mistakes. Shutaro and Ataru initiate their plan again, and everyone scrambles to find each other. Shutaro discovers he's no longer with Shinobu but with Ataru, and the two spook each other. The two decide to look for Lum and Shinobu, and Shutaro reveals the truth about his brave bravado and tells Ataru he can only act fine when women have their eyes on him. He suffers from nyctophobia and claustrophobia. Shutaro screams in fear, and Lum and Shinobu arrive. Upon arriving, Shutaro puts on a brave act and pushes Ataru into a nearby wall. Ataru covers their eyes, triggering Shutaro's illness. The four continue their journey through the cave, but the flashlight goes out for real this time, and Lum utilizes her electric powers because she can't find Ataru. Unknowingly, Lum sets a rocket off, causing a massive explosion in the cave. Their teacher and classmates notice them from afar, and everyone but Shinobu bickers with each other. But we see a glimpse of another alien spacecraft, and a mysterious girl is resting in a container. The next day, we see Lum and Ataru competing against Shinobu and Shutaro in tennis. At the same time, some crows are carrying a pod in a forest. Their tennis ball hits one of the crow on his head, causing them to lose their balance and drop the pod. The pod crashes on top of Shutaro despite Ataru warning him about it, and Ataru notices a woman in the pod and informs the others. The crows cry out for the woman in the pod as we discover she's a princess. The crows tell Shutaro he looks handsome and say he's a perfect match for their princess since she adores hot men. The crows wake up their master as he explains where he came from to the group, and he says their planet has no humanoid males, so they travel to Earth to locate a groom for Princess Kurama. The master crow tells Shutaro they want him to marry the princess and go on a date with her. Although Shutaro's not happy with the situation, the crows ask him to hurry up before Ataru seals the deal. Shinobu stops him, but Shutaro informs her that he's not doing it of his own accord, and Shutaro's failure gives Ataru a chance to kiss Princess Kurama. Everyone's astonished by Ataru's actions, and the master crow informs them that now that Ataru's kissed Kurama, she must pledge to the man who awakens her with a kiss. Kurama wakes up and notices Shutaro. She mistakes him for being the one that kissed her, and Ataru tries to tell Kurama that he woke her up, but Lum electrocutes him out of anger. Several days later, the crows meet on their ship with Lum, and one of the crows suggests they have her hooked up with Shutaro, but the master crow wants to follow tradition and have Ataru be her groom. Lum is surprised that Kurama doesn't know that she kissed him. One of the crows plans to keep it that way, and Lum offers to help, but before the master crow can inform Kurama of the truth, one of the crows tells him that Kurama is spending time with Shutaro as they speak. At school, Ataru lectured about proper etiquette between boys and girls. Some students complain while others cheer Shutaro on. Despite being praised, Shutaro's upset that he failed to kiss Kurama before Ataru did. Kurama arrives and asks Shutaro to attend a date with her, but Lum comes with a flamethrower and threatens to harm Kurama if she dares make contact with Ataru. Ataru tries to woo Kurama, but she swipes him away, and Lum asks Ataru why he's being flirtatious with Kurama. Ataru says he doesn't mind going on one date with a girl because it means he won't have any problems later. Some crows arrive and tell Kurama that the master crow is sleeping on the ship. Kurama gets flirtatious with Shutaro, but before Ataru attempts to tell Kurama the truth, the crows cover his mouth with a cloth and pull Shutaro aside and ask him to play along. After some convincing, Shutaro decides to move forward with their plan, and he re-enters the classroom and tells Kurama he can't wait for their night of Umra's Congress. Shinobu and Ataru try telling Kurama the truth, but the crows prevent them. Lum and the crows build Kurama and Shutaro a mechanical love nest to make babies, and Shutaro's female classmates continue complaining, and Kurama tries shutting them up. Shutaro doesn't want to do it in public, but Lum tells them she and the crows made the love nest fully enclosed, and Kurama drags Shutaro inside the love nest while everyone, including Shinobu, is troubled about the matter. Inside, we see Shutaro is nervous as Kurama asks him if she's opposed to making babies with her, but before they commit the act, Ataru squeezes his way into the ship, upsetting Kurama. The master crow arrives and informs Kurama that Ataru is the one who awakened her, and Kurama asks Shutaro if the master crow's telling the truth, and he confirms he is. He tells her he lied because he wants her to be happy. Kurama refuses to follow tradition, but the master crow insists on it. She asks him what would happen if they went against the rules, and the master crow says he doesn't know. They decide to know what would happen if Kurama broke tradition. The Master Crow has his men on his ship's computer, so he can access the mother computer on their home planet. He hopes to locate knowledge from previous elders. After many masters fail to explain, the present Master Crow locates the crow who started the tradition. He refuses to explain the reason for creating the ceremony, but Kurama insists she has a right to know. So he explains that he went on a perilous journey and encountered a lady crow sleeping near a shore, and he kissed her without hesitation to awaken her, and they eventually got married. But she gets angry and demands an explanation for why he established the tradition, but the crow doesn't give her a great response, leading her to destroy their computer. She's shocked that she lived a life dedicated to a pointless tradition. Kurama enters her nest and feels depressed, but Shutaro enters soon after and comforts her. He tells her she should be happy because they don't need to worry about breaking the rules. Before they continue where they left off, Ataru engulfs Shutaro in a sealed bell, and Shutaro starts crying because of his illness and the lack of women looking at him. Kurama's astonished by Shutaro's wimpy persona. Kurama leaves the nest and tells Lum that she can't stand pathetic men, and plans to leave Earth in search of someone stronger. Lum's surprised by Kurama's quick change of heart, and Kurama tells her that now that she's free to choose her husband, she can raise standards for herself. The next day, some classmates inform Ataru that there's a new school nurse, so Ataru rushes to the nurse's office to get a good look at her. He learns it's Sakura, the shrine maiden from before. Meanwhile, tons of boys, including Shutaro, gawk over Sakura, but after glancing at her again, Ataru develops feelings for her. Sakura shoos everyone away with one of her heels. Seconds later, some men arrive and ask Sakura to perform an exorcism on their boxing gloves. Seconds later, Cherry's cat and Cherry barge into Sakura's office because the cat stole his fish. Sakura knocks them out of her office with her chair, and the men notice that Sakura sent one of the gloves flying along with Cherry and his cat. At the same time, Lum is flying over the area and gets hit by the same glove. Lum shows it to Ataru in school, and he explains what it is, but Ataru realizes the glove's possessed by something as it's forcefully moving him around. The glove forces him to cuddle with various girls, resulting in Lum punishing him with her electricity. The glove forces Ataru to fondle Shutaro, and the two get into a heated argument. Sakura arrives in the classroom in her shrine maiden outfit and explains the situation to everyone, and she says the glove is cursed by an entity called the Love Clincher. It adores getting close and personal with people by performing a cinch hold, and explains that a residual boxer cursed these gloves and used them in the past. He was a fearsome being that no one wanted to meet, and Lum gets close to Ataru, activating the gloves. He protects Lum by taking the glove's punch. Ataru approaches Shutaro, and the right glove sends him into the air, resulting in another fight between Shutaro and Ataru. Sakura hatches a scheme and places Ataru and Lum inside a barrier-covered boxing ring. Sakura says that Lum and Ataru should continue doing their back-and-forth antics in the ring to help with the exorcism. Ataru protects Lum to the best of his abilities because he doesn't want to hit a woman, but gets knocked out by his own hooks as Sakura enters the ring and removes the gloves. She says the exorcism worked as the constant hugging and punching satisfied the spirit, and Sakura punches Ataru after he tries to make a move on her. Lum and Ataru are heading to school, and Ataru tells her not to interfere with the scoring girl's routine as they pass by a loving couple holding hands. Lum tries to grab Ataru's hand, but Ataru spots Shinobu and rushes toward her, which infuriates Lum. At school, Shutaro receives another love letter from a female classmate, and his male classmates are jealous. Ataru and Lum arrive as Ataru's male classmate glances at his disrespect toward her. His classmates head into the restroom to let out some steam, and they forge a vengeance-filled scheme to get back at Shutaro for swiping all the girls off his feet. In class, the boys create a fake love letter directed toward Ataru. Once the boys complete it, they get Ataru to read it aloud. Ataru reads some hateful remarks toward Shutaro, which catches his attention, and Shutaro looks at the letter's handwriting and says it couldn't have come from a cute girl. Lum arrives and notices Ataru jumping in glee, and Shutaro tells her that he's joyful because he received a love letter from a girl, and Lum demands Ataru tell her who gave him the letter. Lum cries into Shutaro's chest, which makes him happy and the other male classmates jealous. Lum asks him if he's mad that she's in the arms of another man, but he responds that they look great together. Shutaro tells Lum that she needs to give up on Ataru since he'd rather gawk at a fake love letter than cuddle with her. This angers Ataru, who believes the girl who gave it to him is real. Shutaro and Ataru form a bet around the situation, and Shutaro says if the girl isn't real, he gets to take over as class president, but Ataru says if she is real, Shutaro must fork over 10,000 yen to him. Some male classmates forge the letter huddle to devise a plan, and they don't want Ataru to lose the bet. So they ask a girl at a cafe to pretend to be Otoko for 1 hour, which is the name of the fake girl from the ladder, and the girl accepts the offer. The next day, one of the classmates hands Ataru a new letter from Otoko, which mentions that she wants to meet Ataru at Kataguri Cafe at 4 p.m. Lum's jealous and says she might move on from Ataru and be with Shutaro instead. Ataru pretends to care but immediately throws Lum into Shutaro's arms, so Lum electrocutes Ataru and flies away. In a tree, Lum ponders about Otomo, and she overhears a conversation from the Ataru's male classmates that the girl who was going to pretend to be Otomo can't do the deed because she has a stomachache, so she had taken the 3,000 yen they paid her and pigged out. The boys head into class as Ataru prepares for his date with Otomo. He promises to take them out to dinner when he wins the 10,000 yen from Shutaro, and Shutaro taunts Ataru, which angers him. The boys are nervous as they can't bring themselves to tell Ataru the truth, as they're worried about Shutaro becoming the new class president. Lum refuses to help Ataru because she wants him to learn a lesson. At the cafe, Ataru awaits Otomo's arrival, and all his male classmates are sitting in separate booths along with Shutaro. Elsewhere, Lum thinks about Ataru's situation, and she starts getting second thoughts about the whole matter and feels terrible for him. After an hour passes, Shutaro tells Ataru he'll give him 15 more minutes, and if she doesn't show up, he will lose the bet. At the same time, tears fall down Lum's face as she thinks about how much pain Ataru must be feeling inside. As the time runs out, Shutaro declares his victory while Ataru sits in his booth in shame. Seconds later, Lum arrives dressed up as Otoko, surprising everyone, and Ataru's thrilled until he gets another look at Otoko and realizes it's Lum. Lum whispers into Ataru's ear that he should play along because she knows he doesn't want to look like a clown in front of everyone. He agrees, and they enact their role play. The two leave the cafe. When they are a decent distance away, Lum informs Ataru that everything was a prank, and the two get into a small argument. Lum notices another couple holding hands in front of them. Meanwhile, Ataru can't believe he owes her a favor, but he looks at Lum again and questions if she's always looked this pretty. Before Lum flies away, Ataru grabs her hand and suggests they continue walking together a bit longer. The following day, Lum receives a transmission from her father. Lum's father reminds her about their clan's annual showdown event. In the next scene, Lum informs Ataru that he'll be participating in Setsubun with her on her home planet, and she opens an interdimensional portal in his room, and the two arrive at her planet. Ataru and Lum link up with Lum's father. He and his people will battle an opposing faction deemed the Lucky Gods. Someone blows a horn, and the Honest and Lucky Gods engage in a game of basket tower toss, which disappoints Ataru, but he spots one of Lucky God's female warriors and heads toward her. Lum tells Ataru to get away from her and confirms the red-haired girl's name is Benton and she is her friend. At Ataru's home, his mother is upset that they ate sukiyaki without him. Sherry arrives and tells them that he received a premonition that Ataru is in hell, and suggests that his parents must help Cherry guide Ataru's soul to heaven to honor his death, but before he can do so, he asks Ataru's mother to make him some sukiyaki. Lum is angered by Ataru's flirtatious attempts on Benton, and she plans to play along with Ataru despite Lum. Benton flirts with Ataru, and Lum loses control over her team's basket. After the battle ends, Lum's father announces the winner, and the Lucky Gods claim victory as Lum's father chooses Ataru to face punishment. At Ataru's house, his parents and Cherry finish their second round of sukiyaki, and Ataru's mother threatens him to proceed with the ritual since Cherry wants to depart. Cherry summons a vision that allows them to peer into Ataru's whereabouts, and his family and Cherry notice Ataru strapped to a pole while being pelted with items, and they believe that Ataru's in hell. We see Ataru waking up from a cold next to Shinobu, and suddenly everyone from Shutaro to Cherry starts arriving at his room. Shutaro and some students are furious that Lum isn't with Ataru, and he tells them that Lum went to Neptune to visit an old friend. Suddenly, cold weather engulfs Ataru's room, and Shutaro opens one of Ataru's closets, causing an avalanche to shower everyone with snow. Ataru's schoolmates dig away in the snow to find Ataru held by a mysterious girl, and Cherry plans to exorcise the girl because he thinks she's a demon, but Shutaro stops him, and the girl reveals that Ataru's closet now houses a mysterious portal to her world. She asks if anyone can guide her back to her place, and they accept. Ataru and his friends follow the girl. Ataru tells one of his friends that Lum turned his closet into an interdimensional passageway the other day, and Shutaro comments how the entrance has vanished, so they can't turn back now. The girl tells the group not to fall behind because the passage they're traversing now crosses through dimensions. They reach a large hole, and the girl hears two cries for help. Someone points out that one of the voices is Lum's, and the girl hops into the hole, while Ataru and the others follow suit. Lum rushes to Ataru's aid but asks why he came here and confirms that they're on Neptune. It appears the girl they were following was her old friend Oyukai. Other girls ask Ataru's male classmates and Shutaro to shovel away at the snow. Tataru, Lum, Shinobu, and Cherry follow Oyuki into her mansion. Inside, Oyuki says they opened an interdimensional hole to dispose of all the snow they have to shovel on her planet. She reveals her undergarments and plans to prepare tea for everyone. Ataru was infatuated by Oyuki's pleasant demeanor and dashing appearance, and Lum electrocutes him out of jealousy, causing Ataru to leave the area. Ataru recounts how Oyuki's better than Shinobu and Lum because she's kinder, and Oyuki takes Ataru to a room because she notices he has a fever. Ataru and Oyuki put the moves on each other, but before they do anything further, Oyuki's manservant Bibo breaks one of the room's walls and attacks Ataru, and he realizes that Bibo's a Yeti. Oyuki informs Ataru that Bibo views her like an elder sister and doesn't like men showing affection toward her. Bibo chases Ataru to the interdimensional hole and returns to Ataru's home. Several hours later, Tomobiki Town's citizens and news crew cover the events unfolding at Ataru's household. Bibo is holding Ataru atop his house, making it look like a parody of King Kong. Bibo and Ataru yell while Lum, Oyukai, and the others look at them. The next day, Shinobu reads an article covering the event, while Ataru's wrapped up in bandages as Lum scolds him. Oyukai and Bibo stand inside Ataru's closet, and Ataru asks Oyukai and Lum to close off the interdimensional passageway to prevent him from getting more sick. Shinobu wonders what happened to Shutaro as he hasn't appeared in school for days. We discover Shutaro stayed on Neptune to continue shoveling the snow to appease Neptune's women, revealing the countless piles of snow he dug up. But we see some fish-like monster noticing Ataru heading toward him. He's bewildered by Ataru's presence since he's never had someone visit him in a long time. Sometime earlier, Ataru arrives at Shutaro's family hotel's pool area and can't wait to converse with some ladies, and he chats with Shutaro and Cherry, who appear as vegetables in Ataru's mind since he doesn't want to see half-naked men. Lum and Shinobu arrive in their swimsuits, and Shutaro compliments Lum on her attire, and Shinobu threatens to hurt Shutaro for not complimenting her, so he does so. Meanwhile, Sakura belittles the gang for their childish behavior, and Ataru attempts to grab Sakura, but she knocks him into the pool. Lum glares at the water, and wonders if Sakura punched him too hard because he hasn't returned for air. In the present, the water creature begs Ataru to stay and makes him some tea, and Lum dives into the pool to rescue Ataru. The creature turns around and mistakes Lum for Ataru. Meanwhile, everyone is astounded by how many drinks Sakura had. Ataru returns to the surface and asks Sakura to exorcise a creature in the pool as he believes it's a demon, while the monster prepares to get some snacks for Lum to eat, but he learns he's run out and promises to grab some more at the store up top. The monster reaches the surface and startles everyone, and Ataru and his friends head to exorcise the creature but discover it has departed. We receive banter between the characters as the fish monster heads toward them with more snacks, and the monster can't believe so many people are at his home. Eventually, they all spot the monster, and Shutaro demands it to leave his family's pool at once. The monster asks why, but Shutaro can't say because he needs some air, and Shutaro heads up top with the creature in his hand. More people see it and flee out of fear. Lum and Ataru feel terrible for the monster, but Shutaro demands it leave, and Shutaro puts his foot down, resulting in the monster packing his belongings. Lum asks what it plans to do now, and the monster suggests he'll search for a new peaceful home. Lum and Ataru wave goodbye to the monster and head home. Before Ataru showers, he spots the creature in his tub, and creature greets him and says he can't wait to become neighbors. We see Lum and Ataru preparing to head for the beach, and Ataru's mother stops them and asks Ataru to dispose of the monster when he gets there. It turns out it's been staying in their bathtub for a month, and Ataru proposes leaving him somewhere else, but his mother doesn't want it causing panic in Tomobiki Town, and Ataru's mother promises to ship the creature's belongings to him when he finds a new home. At the beach, the monster greets Shutaro and Shinobu. Ataru and the creature depart from the group to find the monster a new home. Meanwhile, Sakura and a boy named Tsubame are conversing at a beach house nearby, and a waiter stops by with a mountain of spaghetti. Tsubame promises Sakura can have it for free if she finishes it all, and Sakura surprises everyone by completing it all and even asks for seconds. At the same time, Ataru and the monster head toward a rocky area on the beach. The monster waves goodbye to Ataru and thanks him for helping him find a new home, and the creature can't help but feel lonely until he hears Tsubame and Sakura heading toward him. As the monster stares at them from afar, Sakura reveals that she can't wait to get engaged to Tsubame, but before the creature could greet them, Ataru stops him. Ataru promises to show the monster how to greet humans properly. At the same time, Tsubame reflects on how it's been challenging to reunite with Sakura because of her work and nosy uncle. Eventually, Lum, Shinobu, and Shutaro arrive without Sakura and Tsubame's knowledge and spy on them, while a straw hat-wearing boy with a box notices Ataru and the monster. The boy's jealous that Ataru has a pet to hang out with instead of him, and the boy says he's upset that he must abandon his pet Pochi because of his mother's wishes. He hopes that by leaving his pet on the beach, maybe someone else can take him in, but before Sakura and Tsubame kiss, she stops because she feels like someone's watching them, and Tsubame tells her not to worry about it as they proceed. The creature heads toward them, pausing Ataru to grab the monster and ask for them to proceed to kiss. Meanwhile, Pochi's owner stumbles upon two kids ridiculing a small turtle, and he continues looking for a better spot to place Pochi as Ataru Lum, and the monster pass by. The boy notices them and wishes he didn't have to get rid of Pochi, and the gang meets and has a final meal together with the monster. Shutaro wonders if the monster's trying to guilt-trip them to keep him around, and the boy leaves Pochi near Ataru and his friends and hopes they can give Pochi a loving home. Ataru suggests the monster hop inside a box, and the boy turns around and sees Ataru holding a box, and he assumes Ataru has decided to adopt Pochi. As he walks away, he recounts all his fond memories with Pochi while shedding tears, and the kid runs back and swipes the box from Ataru's grasp. Shinobu notices Pochi's box and tells the others to have a look, and upon looking inside, they spot Cherry eating something, and they're all shocked. At home, Ataru receives a postcard from his mother because it's from the monster who seems to be having the time of his life with the boy, and it is revealed that the monster's taken the new title Pochi. We see Ataru's principal informing Ataru's teacher that a new transfer student will be arriving at his class today, and his teacher's flustered to discover that Lum is a transfer student. Lum's father promises Ataru's teacher that Lum will be on her best behavior. In class, Ataru's teacher introduces Lum to the class and everyone is thrilled, but Ataru ends up choking on a piece of food. Meanwhile, everyone goes outside to attend today's recreation day, while some female classmates frolic toward Lum. One of Ataru's friends asks him what sport appeals to Lum. Ataru doesn't care until someone mentions that another class received a good-looking transfer student, and the girl's name is Ran, and Ataru doesn't hesitate to introduce himself to her. Lum grabs Ataru and tells him he should be cheering for her instead. Lum glances at Ran with jealous eyes, but before Ran attends her sporting event, Lum walks past her and requests that she meet her behind the gym later. Later, Ran meets with Lum after class, and it turns out that they know each other, and Lum asks Ran if she transferred to the school to meet her. Ran admits that she does, but Lum asks why she wanted to meet her while disguised as a human, and Ran says it's integral that she did. We see a flashback to Ran on her spacecraft as she remarks how she was looking at old photos of her playing with Lum when they were children. In the present, Ran reveals that she and Lum once fell in love with a handsome stud named Ri, and Lum denies it, despite Ran confirming Lum was once engaged to Ri. Lum says it's all in the past, angering Ran, and she shows her true colors and reveals that she visited Earth to enact revenge on Lum, and Ran vows to steal Ataru from Lum and drain his life energy by making lip contact with him. Ran tells Lum not to inform anyone of her being an alien, and if she does, Ran promises to tell everyone that she wet the bed before. Ataru's teacher begins the scavenger hunt race, and Shutaro grabs a card indicating that he must find an electrifying beauty, and Ran obtains her card and asks for Ataru's assistance. Lum tries to prevent him from heading toward Ran, but Shutaro grabs her aside. Ran asks for Ataru to kiss her, but unfortunately Lum throws a block at Ataru to prevent him from kissing Ran. Ataru's teacher announces the next activity will be a cavalry battle, and they begin. With Lum on his and others' back, Ataru heads toward Ran to attempt to kiss her, and despite Ran and Ataru's efforts, Lum prevents them from kissing again. However, Ran kisses one of Ataru's classmates in the situation and drains their life energy. Later that day, Lum and Ran visit an area next to Tomobiki's bridge, and Lum requests that she leaves Ataru alone, but Ran steers the conversation into another memory. In a flashback, we see a younger Lum and Ran making wishes while staring at the stars, and they reveal their dreams to each other. They both wish to find the world's most wonderful husband. Ran brings up Ri again and gets infuriated by the fact that he only had eyes for Lum and not her, and Ran yells and vows to murder Ataru to get payback. Lum was standing near a tree, and she received a letter from Ran, who wanted to meet her at this location to inform her about something. Ran sends an android of herself to meet with Lum. The android reveals that Ran plans to return home and no longer wants to seek revenge on her, and she plans to hold a farewell party on Sunday and wants Lum to attend the fiesta with Ataru. Lum grows suspicious as Ran's robot asks that she doesn't tell him that she'll be going home, and the robot explodes and drops a map signifying the location of Ran's farewell party. On Sunday, Lum and Ataru arrive at Ran's party, and Ran shows them to her room and hands them some cookies and refreshments. Lum's worried about the meal having tranquilizers or something. When Ran heads into the kitchen to grab something, Lum notices one of Ran's sentient creatures that she's playing off as a mundane vase. Lum pours the cookies into his mouth to see if Ran puts something inside them. It turns out that Ran places something in the cookies as the creature falls asleep, and Ran returns with a cake and is furious that her plan didn't work. Lum heads into the kitchen to clean off their dishes, but behind the curtain, Lum knows Ran might try to seduce Ataru behind her back. Lum peeps through the curtain to spy on them, and Ataru suggests Ran kiss him while Lum's gone, but Ran doesn't want to upset Lum. Seeing Ataru egging Ran to kiss him angers Lum, and Ran heads into the kitchen and sees Lum cleaning the dishes. Ran glances at her oven and informs Lum to return to Ataru's side. As Lum heads back into Ran's room, she wonders if Ran gave up on taking Ataru from her. When Lum returns, she notices Ataru's missing, and he left a door wide open, and it turns out that Ataru went on a stroll. During his stroll, Ataru wonders why Ran's home looks off-putting. Meanwhile, we learn that Ran was baking an Ataru-looking android inside her oven, and Lum barges into the kitchen as Ran swiftly pushes her Ataru clone into the hallway. Ataru notices the clone and finds it strange, and Ran grabs the real Ataru and tells Lum he was here the whole time, and Lum grabs the real Ataru and plans to head home. At the same time, Ran enters the hallway and kisses the fake Ataru android because she believes it's the real one, and Ran realizes her mistake and yells as Lum tries dragging Ataru home. At night, Lum ponders over her encounters with Ran and wonders if she's really going home. The next day, Lum notices Ran and asks why she didn't go home, and Ran yells at Lum and says she hasn't finished getting her revenge yet. We see an Oni-like creature roaring into the sky while holding a Lum-looking toy. Cherry receives a premonition that something bad is about to happen as Ri has arrived on Earth. At Ataru's house, Lum and Ataru get into an argument over Shinobu. Cherry arrives and warns Ataru to flee the area as a monster is heading his way. Meanwhile, Shinobu encounters Ri and gets startled by his presence. Lum and Ataru continue arguing with each other until Ataru spots Shinobu at his window, but Shinobu's not alone as she's with Lum's ex-fiancé Ri, who startles everyone. He transforms into his human-like form to calm them down, and Ataru's mother storms into Ataru's room because she doesn't want him to cause trouble, and she finds Lum asking Ri to leave as Ataru introduces him to her. Ataru's mother is heartstruck by Ri's handsome looks, and Shinobu asks Lum why she doesn't like Ri. Lum argues that she doesn't like Ri's beast form and would rather spend her life with Ataru. This infuriates Ri immensely, and Ataru's mother returns with snacks and blushes when Ri takes her hand, and his mother notices his father depressed in the corner. The two rush down the stairs as Ataru's mother aims to explain herself, and Lum explains to Shinobu that she doesn't like Ri's slob-like nature and doesn't care if he looks attractive, and Lum hugs Ataru again, enticing Ri to transform into a beast again. Lum confronts Ri for his behavior as he takes out some toys, and someone translates his actions into words. It appears Ri traveled to Earth to propose to Lum, and Ri transforms into a human again and whips out a manual to help him propose to Lum. Lum continuously denies his attempts, hugs Ataru, and declares she'd rather spend her life with him, and this angers Ri transforms and chases Ataru and Lum out of the house and toward Tomobiki Park. We get brief instances of Lum and Ataru accidentally messing up different couples' attempts at proposing, and they encounter a man selling food, and this catches Ri's attention. Ataru's surprised as Lum says this is another aspect of Ri that she doesn't like. This routine continues as we eventually arrive back at Ataru's house. Ataru and Lum run upstairs, and we get another romantic encounter between his mother and Ri. Ataru's mother contemplates abandoning her husband and Ataru to live a life with Ri, but suddenly everyone with that Ri cause trouble arriving at Ataru's room, and the women share their affection for Ri while the food sellers and male spouses exhibit rage, and Ataru bewildered by his terrible luck. We see Lum is shocked by everyone's lackadaisical attitude during free time. Shutaro can't stand his classmates' laziness and dreads this hour of the day. Shutaro hears a call coming from his radio and believes it's his ticket out of there, but we learn Ri took control of the helicopter as he crashes it into Ataru's class. Meanwhile, Ran overhears Ri's voice while in another class and wonders if it's him, and Shutaro's shocked when Shinobu explains that the ox monster is Lum's ex-fiancé and that he's a handsome gentleman. Lum tells Ri to leave as Shutaro plans to protect her from Ri, and Lum tries to flee the classroom with Ataru, but gets her plans thwarted by Ran, who arrives at Ataru's class with a box lunch for Ri. Ran pulls Lum aside and asks Lum if she can hook her up with Ri since she's in love with him, and Lum complies. At the same time, Ri starts eating everyone's food, angering Shutaro, and reiterates that Lum couldn't possibly wed a beast as hideous as Ri. Ataru tells Shutaro to relax as Ri transforms into a human again and surprises Shutaro with his stunning looks, and upon seeing his human form, other girls frolic toward Ri's side and start handing him food. Meanwhile, Ran asks Lum to report on Ri's activities, and Lum can't stand his pig-like eating habits, but Ran argues that's what she adores about him, and Ran plans to get them her food. Shinobu approaches Ri and reminds him why he came to their school in the first place, and Ri transforms into a beast and pounces on Ataru, and promises him that he doesn't know where Lum went. Seeing him attacking Ataru, Lum orders Ri to back off, but before Ri attacks Ataru, he heads for Lum but gets stopped by Ran and gives him her box lunch, and Ri digs into the meal. When Ri finishes Ran's meal, she asks him if he liked it, but he ignores Ran and begs for Lum's attention. Lum can't believe Ri's ignoring Ran's feelings for him, but Ran tells Lum not to worry since Ri gave her lunch more respect. Suddenly Cherry arrives and gives Ri some food, and this enrages Ran, who can't believe Ri's treating Cherry's dish equally to hers. She leaves the room with tearful eyes, leading Lum to yell at Ri. However, Ran returns with another meal for Ri, and she asks him if he likes that more than Cherry's and if it's tasty. Ri shakes his head yes, but senses something wrong, and Cherry picks up on Ri's demeanor. Ri whispers something into his ear as Cherry explains that Ri's going home now that he's full of food. Ri jets out of the classroom, and Ataru wonders why he'd show up in the first place if he only required food, and Ran waves goodbye to Ri as Lum tells him to never return to Earth. At Ataru's house, Lum and Ataru notice his mother feeding Ri a meal. Ataru is infuriated because Ri said he was going home. Ri greets them and doesn't explain himself. Later, Ataru's mother and father discuss Ataru's school's Parent Day event. Ataru's father's thankful this was the case as he thought his wife wanted to file for a divorce so she can marry Ri, and Lum's mother pampers herself as she plans to attend the Parents' Day event herself. Ataru's mother arrives at Tomobiki High School to attend its Parent Day event. She couldn't convince her husband to attend. Meanwhile, a woman in an ox-carried cart shows up, leaving everyone in awe at her elegance. A spaceship arrives and lands atop the woman's cart, scaring her butler because he thinks she's dead, but thankfully she made it out alive as the spaceship door opens up. Lum's mother rushes out of her ship to greet Ataru's mother. At the same time, the butler squeals over how rude everyone's acting toward his mistress, and we learn that the woman that got crushed by Lum's mother's spaceship is Shutaro's mother. Lum notices her mother and leaps out of her classroom to hug her, and Shutaro greets his mother's butler, but gets called upon by her mother. His mother tells him to complain to Lum's mother about her behavior, startling Shutaro, and she asks Lum to translate his mother's complaints to her mother. Shutaro recites the lines, but Lum tells her mother the opposite, and Shutaro's mother grows irritated and throws one of her gloves at Lum's mother. Shutaro explains that this means his mother wants to fight Lum's mother, and Lum translates her mother's words for Shutaro's mother. She asks her to reconsider the duel, but Shutaro's mother refuses, and Lum translates more from her mother, and Lum's mother's honored that Shutaro's mother would allow her son to propose to her, but she must refrain. At sunset, everyone starts heading home, and Ataru's mother tells Ataru to wake up since it's time to go. She's thankful he didn't do anything stupid, and Ataru makes a fourth wall-breaking remark, asking about his questionable screen time. Lum wakes up Ataru angrily. At breakfast, Ataru's father tells Lum he's thankful Ataru has someone like her around, and the two walk down the street as Lum greets some Tomobiki residents. A maple leaf falls in front of her, and one of Ataru's friends explains the concept of seasons to her, exciting Lum, and Ataru flirts with another girl, and Lum electrocutes him for trying to cheat. In class, Ataru tries impressing girls with some yo-yo tricks while Lum sues something for him, and Shutaro scolds Ataru for his childish behavior and tells him that it's possible Lum wouldn't give him the time of day anymore, and Ataru says he doesn't care. Lum stops sewing. Everyone thinks she's going to shock Ataru again, but Lum refuses, and Lum tells Ataru she's worried about him because of his dumbfounded personality. At night, Lum and Ataru argue about his poor wake-up habits, and Ataru tells Lum that he wishes he returned to being single and free. Lum shuts Ataru's light off and shares her goodbyes with Atar, and she flies off into the night with tears in her eyes. In the morning, Ataru's mother wakes Ataru up, and he wonders where Lum's. At school, everyone questions Ataru about Lum, but he doesn't know and he's more excited to woo women without getting electrocuted by Lum. When Ataru arrives home, he notices the little Lum doll Lum was working on in school the other day, and he wonders if Lum left. When heading to school, Shinobu spots Ataru with Lum's doll in his shirt pocket, and Ataru doesn't try flirting with any girls and acts strange. One of his friends takes Ataru's Lum doll in class, irritating him, and Shutaro proposes to Ataru that Lum possibly dumped him. Ataru believes that Lum has disappeared, causing everyone to go on a search quest for her, and Shutaro summons his police force to assist in their endeavors. During the hunt, someone tells Ataru that Lum returned to her home planet, and Ataru doesn't want to believe it. We receive a montage of Ataru visiting previous locations and remembering his fond memories with her, and Ataru arrives at the same tree where the maple leaf fell in front of Lum and worries he may never see her again. On a spaceship, Lum's parents assist her with renewing her passport so she can return to Earth. Lum's father asks her to consider coming home with them, but Lum refuses. Lum's father tampers with her radio, and Lum overhears Ataru crying in his room. It appears she rigged her doll with a microphone to spy on him, and Lum tells her mother she was worried about what would happen to Ataru when she went away. Ataru wakes up and heads down the same road with the maple leaf tree, and Lum makes her presence known. But Ataru refuses to let his emotions show, and Lum notices her doll in his shirt pocket and smiles. Ataru and Lum traveling through the Tonobiki shopping district and discuss how humans celebrate New Year's Eve, and a handkerchief lands on Ataru's face, and he learns a woman dropped it. He heads toward the woman's ox cart and tries heading inside. Her terrifying looks spook Ataru, Lum, and his classmates, and she laughs menacingly inside. At school, Ataru and Lum tell Shutaro what happened, but he's not buying it, and he ponders it over and feels he knows who they're referring to. While our characters enjoy at lunch, some men in black suits roll out a red carpet for the same girl who spooked Lum, Ataru, and the others. The girl approaches Shutaro as everyone glares at her beauty, and the girl clutches onto Shutaro and tells everyone that they're engaged. Shutaro's female classmates and Shinobu attack him because they're not happy he led them on. Shutaro approaches the girl because he's furious about what she's starting. Shutaro reveals that Ryoko's his sister and loves pulling pranks, and Ryoko explains that she took time off from school to deliver food to Shutaro. It took her about 4 days to travel from home to here via the ox cart, and Shutaro's bewildered by this and refuses to eat the food, upsetting Ryoko. Ataru offers to eat lunch in Shutaro's stead even though his friends are against it. Ryoko and Lum get into an argument because she wants to be the one to feed Ataru the food, and Shutaro butts in and tells Ryoko to stay away from Ataru. Ryoko and he gets into an argument. Ataru starts putting the moves on Ryoko to spite Shutaro, leading to more banter. Ryoko orders her men to lock Shutaro up in the class's locker, and he starts whining because of his mental condition. Although his male classmates think he's a loser, the female students find him charming, and Ryoko asks Ataru to visit the Shutaro family estate. Shutaro tells Ataru not to do it, but he's not budging. As everyone fights, Ryoko giggles as she finds her brother's disinterest in Ataru entertaining and arrives at the Shutaro estate, and Shutaro greets him. He warns him not to lay a finger on Ryoko, but suddenly Lum, Sakura, Shinobu, Oyukai, and Benton arrive at the party wearing kimonos. Unlike Ataru, Shutaro is happy to have them join in the festivities. As everyone looks around, Shutaro informs them that this isn't the main house. Only a tiny part of the Shutaro estate serves as his room, and Ryoko welcomes everyone from atop one of the roofs, and she informs them that an oshi meal has been made for them inside the party room. The gang heads inside and sits on the cushions. Benton and Ataru exit the room from the secret trapdoors, startling Lum and Shutaro. Everyone else gets pushed out of the room by a closing wall. Benton and Ataru find themselves alone on a conveyor belt. Meanwhile, Shutaro and the others wonder what's going on, and the family's agents split them up using a forklift with needles attached. Shutaro, Shinobu, and Lum find themselves trapped in a room with a bizarre man. At the same time, Benton and Ataru escape the conveyor belt area, and one of the men in black greets them, and they tell the two to follow the red arrows on the ground. Benton's had enough and goes in the opposite direction, and she gets caught with a net as one of the men places a sticker on it that reads failure. Ataru follows the arrows and meets up with Shutaro, Shinobu, Lum, and the strange man who we find out is his grandfather. Shutaro's grandfather offers them some tea. After they drink it, Ataru, Shinobu, and Shutaro get paralyzed, and it turns out he put an anesthetic in the drink. Lum's unaffected because she's an alien. Despite being paralyzed, Ataru notices Ryoko wandering by, and he tries to get her attention while hopping around like a monkey. The men grab Ataru and hoist him away. Lum tries chasing after him, but another agent leads her to another room with Sakura and Rie. They must compete in a mochi eating contest, and Lum loses the game and gets hurled into the air. Lum and Shinobu go searching for them and encounter Shutaro's father, and he locks them inside a dark room and hopes Shutaro's nyctophobic personality will kick in. He eventually pulls the lever and has Shutaro trapped in there alone, and he starts crying like a preschooler, exciting his father. He pulls it again to free him, and his father jumps in glee as Shinobu pulls the lever as soon as he makes contact with the wall. They trap his father inside the dark room and continue searching for the others, and Lum returns to the Shutaro estate and wonders what's happening. Ryoko and her family appear in a room, and it seems they're playing a board game with their guests as their pieces. Ataru and Oyuki end up in a lottery-based game hosted by Shutaro's grandfather, and he drops large weights on top of them equal to the numbers found on their tickets, but Oyuki freezes Ataru and Shutaro's grandfather because she's upset that she didn't receive any money. After several games, they all arrive at the party room, and Ryoko tells them to wait there as she presses a button, and this sends our characters into the sky and blows them up like a firework, and Ryoko is mesmerized by the fireworks. We see Ataru's family taking photos of Lum in her kimono dress, and Ataru grows jealous of the attention Lum's receiving from them and heads outside. Ataru notices a small child roaming around in his mailbox and takes him out. Ataru informs his family about the child, and the child notices Lum, who reveals to know something about the kid. We learn his name is Ten. He's Lum's little cousin, and Ten reveals he had someone deliver him to Ataru's household. Ataru and Lum head out to meet with Sakura, but Ataru's not happy that she brought Ten. He doesn't want him ruining his romantic escapades with Sakura, and Ten converses with Ataru and finds him unfit to be Lum's darling, and he breathes fire upon Ataru, causing him to run in pain. They'd arrive at Sakura's place, and Ten greets Sakura and Shinobu, and he wins them over with his charm, infuriating Ataru. Ran arrives, and Sakura reveals that Ran will work for her as a part-time shrine maiden. Unlike the other girls, Ran isn't happy that Ten's arrived, and Ten reveals that Ran lives right next door to his family. Ran deflects the others' suspicions of her being an alien like Lum. Shiri starts the Karuta card activity. Ataru starts putting his hand over the other female's hands, but before Ataru could put his hand over Ran's, Ten burns his hand with his fire breath, and they move on to holding a talent show. Lum tells Ten he should participate, and Ten shows off his flying skills and burns Ataru to a crisp for making a witty remark toward him. Ataru heads to the kitchen to cool off his wounds. Ran goes to the kitchen to check on Ataru, and thinks Ran cares for him, but Ran only shows compassion to get revenge on Lum. But before Ran and Ataru share an intimate moment, Ten lets out more flames on him. Ataru chases Ten down with some pans and plans to give the kid a beating, and Sakura grabs Ataru and flings him into the pond because of his poor behavior. Lum helps Ataru out of the water and giggles, and she knows Ten must be jealous because Ataru took Lum from him. Ten helps Sakura with her cooking, and Ten admits to having a crush on Sakura because of her kindness. In the next scene, Ten scribbles notes on a piece of paper. Ataru is annoyed by his actions because he's doing it loudly and can't study, and Ten throws something at Ataru, and the two get into a heated argument. Lum tells them to stop and asks Ten what he's doing anyway. Ten says he was writing a letter and asks Lum if she can translate this into Earthling for him, and it turns out it's a love letter to Sakura. Ten wants to meet up with her in the afternoon for a date at a cafe, and Ataru tells Ten to prepare for disappointment and rejection. Ataru offers to become Ten's love letter ghostwriter for unknown reasons, and Sakura arrives home and receives news from her mother about the letter. Sakura reads the letter and gets disgusted by the explicit things written in it. Sakura rips the letter and storms out of her place, and she plans to give the writer a piece of her mind, and Sakura arrives at the meetup location. Lum, Ataru, and Ten notice her from afar. Ataru is shocked because he thought the words written in it would scare Sakura off. Ten approaches Sakura, and she's dumbfounded after hearing him say he sent her the letter, and promises Sakura he wrote the letter, and Sakura goes along with it because she doesn't want to harm a child. Ten and Sakura head out, and Ataru laughs behind the corner. He planned a saddening and adult-themed course for Ten. They'll have him getting his heart shattered by the end of his date with Sakura. Meanwhile, Ten and Sakura chat with each other. Sakura knows kids can be precocious but mean no harm, but she's startled to learn that Ten booked them to hang out at a raunchy club, and Sakura grabs Ten and runs away from the establishment. They attend a different cafe instead, but Ten cries because his plan didn't go accordingly. Sakura promises to adhere to his every demand if it'll make him happy. Ataru gets unhinged about this whole charade, and Sakura and Ten go to the movie theater as Ten wants him and Sakura to watch a mature-rated film. After more crying, Sakura concedes and watches the movie with him. Sakura finds the film boring and notices that Ten fell asleep, and she overhears Lum questioning the content of the film as Ataru yells at her to stop. Sakura grabs Ataru with brute force, and Sakura questions if Ataru is behind Ten's raunchy desires. Sakura drags Ataru out of the theater as Lum complains about not finishing the film. Ten wakes up and says it's time for him and Sakura to check into a hotel. Sakura questions Ataru about what dirty things he put into Ten's head. Ataru yells at Ten for ruining his plan as Sakura grabs a statue and throws it on top of Ataru. At night, Sakura and Ten sit on a bench and chat. Sakura said it was time for them to depart, but Ten suggests they go to a hotel, and Sakura questions Ten if he knows what he's implying by that idea. Ten asks Sakura if he can marry him, but Sakura says she can't. Lum points out Sakura's ring on her finger, indicating that she plans to marry someone. Ataru and Ten are devastated by this news, and Ten feels it's Ataru's fault for putting him in this situation and lets loose on him with flames, and Ataru trying to wipe the flames off himself. But that's it for this part. Let me know in the comment if you want the next part of this anime. And as always, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video.